Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are watching us from. Welcome back to Jewellery Industry Voices. I am in London. My name is Edward Johnson, and it's a slightly chilly spring day here. We actually need rain, which is not something you often hear somebody in the UK saying. Anyway, welcome back. Welcome to Jewellery Industry Voices. This is the webinar series by CIBJO, the World Jewellery Confederation. Last month, we were live on stage at Vicenza Oro in Italy, and that felt, quite frankly, wonderful. Now we are back to our virtual home here on Zoom, and it's so nice of you all to be able to join us today. So for regular attendees, you will know that in this webinar series, we look at issues of interest in the jewelry business from the perspective of industry leaders. And we have a focused conversation around a specific topic. So today, we are talking about marketing and promotion of jewelry to the end consumer, specifically the promotion of saltwater cultured pearls, and even more specifically, South Sea pearls. So sincere thanks go today to our pearl sponsors for Series 3 of Jewellery Industry Voices. Steve, if you could change the slide. Pasquale Pearling from Australia are our pearl sponsor for this webinar series. Thank you so much to Pete Bracker, Christine Salter, and everyone at Pasquale for your ongoing support for CIBJO and the mission of CIBJO and all the members. Pasquale is renowned for supplying the rarest and most valuable Australian South Sea pearls, and is Australia's largest and oldest pearling company. It cultivates, farms, harvests, wholesales, and retails South Sea pearls, which are distributed through international auctions, private sales, and through their own chain of retail stores. Thank you very much for your sponsorship. As I said, I am Edward Johnson. I'm your co-moderator today. I'm joined by Steve Benson, as always, the World Jewellery Confederation's Director of Communications. Steve, good afternoon. You're in Tel Aviv. How are you today?
I'm very well, Ed. Good to see you and everybody else. Just a few quick details about how the webinar works for those of you who might be joining us for the first time. The webinar itself will run about an hour. We'll tell you ahead of time. We normally run slightly over. We try to stick to time, but we never quite manage it. You are invited to participate and ask questions. Certainly participate in the chat box, which is open. I can see that a lot of you have been using it already. And if you have specific questions that you want to direct either at the panel, at the entire panel, or at anybody specifically, we request that you put them in the Q&A box, and we will try and get to as many of them, if not all of them, at the end of the session. We allocate time for questions and answers. In certain cases, if it's just a simple, question over here, the person that you've directed to actually might choose to answer it in writing directly back to you, and that can be done as well. Other instructions than that we don't really need. Things run pretty much organically. What I would like to do is to pass over to Dr. Gaetano Cavalieri, the president of CIBJO. We'll say a few words of welcome, and then we will be on our way. Gaetano?
Thank you very much, Steve, and thank you, Ed, for your introduction. Let me first thank the sponsors, but I want to thank also all the distinguished speakers and all our friends that are with us online. I am currently in Rome. I left Milano this morning because I have other commitment. I left nearly winter time and I came to Rome where it's summer. So I don't know what to do with my coats. I think I will hide it. But in any case, whatever I have to do, I cannot miss to be with all of you today at this very important event. I am particularly linked of personal friendship to all of you, those who are speaking today, and the majority of those that are in our audience. And I want to say thank you once again. We are working very hard in order to spread out extra messages about what we are going to do today, which, as I said, is very close to my heart, because I have seen both in the South Sea areas, both in Australia and in the Philippines, how they do that, and I have great memories. So thank you very much, and enjoy our webinar. Thanks.
Thanks, Gaetano. I think many of us often wish that we were in some of those beautiful South Sea places. I'm stuck in London, and as I said, it's a bit chilly, so let's bring some warmth into the room, and let me go around and introduce all our panelists. If I can ask you all to get your cameras on and unmute. And let me start by taking us all down under to Sydney and introduce and welcome Christine Salter. Christine is a third-generation member of the Pasquali family and joins us from Sydney. Pasquali are widely known as the pioneers of the Australian South Sea pearl industry. Christine, thank you so much for staying up late for us. How are you?
Oh, fantastic, Edward. Thank you. How are you?
It's nice to see you. Thanks for being with us. And let's zip across to the beautiful archipelago of the Philippines and welcome Marion Blanelector Guzman. Marion grew up in the pearl business after her father, Jacques Branelec, and fellow businessman Manuel Coanco founded Jewellery in 1979. She works together with her brother, Jacques Christophe, and sister, Gail. Marion, mabuhay, welcome to you and good evening.
Good evening, Ed, and thank you, Steve and President Gaetano, for having me this evening. I'm so honored to be among such a fantastic panelists.
Next, let's zip across to the beautiful mountains of Wyoming and introduce Shari Turpin. Shari has been a professional pearl buyer and designer for over 25 years. She has been awarded for her compassion and her commitment to both humanity and protection of the pearl's pristine environment. Shari, thank you so much for getting up early for us. How are you over there in Wisconsin today, in Wyoming today? I'm getting all my country and states wrong today, aren't I?
Well, Ed, I think you said that you wanted to have a global discussion, and I think you're doing magnificent at that. I'm in Jackson, Wyoming, and it's a beautiful morning here, but I'm certainly honored and feel very privileged to have been asked to join the panel with such a broad spectrum of leaders. And so thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Lovely to have you with us. And last but by no means least, David Norman, who is joining us from Darwin this evening in Australia. David comes from 5 generations of pearl dealers and farmers. He entered the business in 1982, and he describes himself as a lifelong pearl man. I can also say I describe you as a wonderful person and a big smiling face whenever I see you on the international trade show circuit, David. So it's great to have you with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed, and good morning to everyone in the Northern Hemisphere, and good evening to everyone in the middle and the Southern Hemisphere, and good afternoon in between. And thank you also to you, Ed, and Steve and Gaetano for your great welcome. And again, it's wonderful to be on the panel with Christine and Marion and Shari. Looking forward to a great discussion and a great honor to be part of it.
So just as a quick disclaimer, if I can, please note that none of the opinions or any of the information offered in this event constitutes any legal, financial, or official advice. CIBJO provides a global perspective on the gem and jewelry industry. So for more precise information, we encourage you to play an active part in your local trade association and seek advice relevant to your location and your business. So let's get started. And let me give you some context to our discussion today. Diamonds, gold, platinum, colored gemstones, they're all served within our industry by significant international trade associations. Incidentally, they're all also members of CIBJO. Now, most of them employ substantial budgets dedicated to category marketing. That means they focus on promoting the product that their members mine or farm, trade, and retail. The obvious example of this is the Natural Diamond Council, the diamond sponsor for these webinars, and also a very active organization promoting diamonds directly to the consumer. So the potential of developing a similar collective marketing message for cultured pearls would seem strong. So how should the trade highlight the key qualities of its product, and how should it attract younger and sustainability conscious consumers? That's what we want to discuss. Let's turn first, if we can, to Christine. Now, as a leading pearl producer and also a wholesaler and retailer, what efforts do you feel Pasquale has made in the past to promote pearls to the public, and doing that in coordination with your clients?
So within our retail business, we've only got stores in Australia. So we heavily promote Australian South Sea pearls specifically, and the Pasquale brand, but only in Australia. And so for our wholesale pearls, which is obviously the international side of our business, well, first of all, the message that we've been focusing on for these pearls has been provenance, our quality, the fact that 100% of our pearls have natural color and luster, corporate social responsibility, and size and rarity. And what we've created is, over a number of years, quite a few different methods to communicate these messages, and also to provide somewhere for our wholesale clients to go to get the information that they can then pass on to their clients, and so forth. And one of the most effective ways that we achieved this was the National Geographic documentary, The Secret Life of Pearls. I don't know if you've seen that, Edward, have you?
Yeah, I have seen it, and it's good for you to bring it up. Maybe.
And so we worked with National Geographic to create this documentary about the whole Australian pearling industry. It wasn't, whilst, they can't have a biased opinion on companies. So it really was about the whole Australian industry, and it covered everything. It covered sustainability, the process, how a pearl is made, cultured and natural, where pearls come from. And it was so beautiful. And this is something that really resonated with our clients. We're always using it. We're still using it. And it aired across 48 different countries. And it's still being aired sometimes as well. So I think that its reach was quite far, which is brilliant. And, the other big thing that we've created most recently is a website that is an online auction website but the major point about this is that it's 24 hours. You can access it 24 hours a day, which is significant because of the time differences across the globe. So whatever time, whenever it is that you need this, to know availability or prices, you can instantly access that and pass on the information to your customers. And we also have the Australian South Sea Pearl website that has all the information. That we really encourage our wholesalers to use this website to also refer their own customers. too as well. And, another big achievement for us was to engage the Marine Stewardship Council, which you're probably familiar with, Edward.
Yeah, the MSC. Yeah.
That's right. And so, this is a not-for-profit, one of the world's leading organizations that come and assess how sustainable you are, as well as the effects that you have on the industry has on the environment. And they came and assessed our industry. And then I think it's the first time any pearling industry has ever been awarded that, been certified as a sustainable industry, which I think is a beautiful message for our customers to be able to pass on.
I think it's really important. And for those of you listening who are not familiar with Marine Stewardship Council or the MSC, they are basically the RJC, but for anything to do with the sea. Okay, so or fish farming products and anything that comes out of the sea. So RJC, of course, is the Responsible Jewellery Council. It is a standard setting organization for the gem and jewelry and watch industry. And MSC does the same for farmed product, fish farmed and sea-based agricultural products. By the way, somebody's asking for the name of the National Geographic documentary. I can't remember the name, Christine.
It's called The Secret Life of Pearls.
Thank you very much.
And if they'd like us to send them a USB, we can probably do that.
Great, thank you. Of course, we've all been through many changes for the past 2.5 years or 2 years since the pandemic arrived on our doorstep. What are your thoughts now about the direction that pearl consumers and pearl consuming demand has taken since the pandemic?
Well, first of all, obviously there was a slump in demand at the onset of the pandemic, but with everything, it's always the uncertainty always creates weaker demands. I think that pretty much completely stabilized after 9 months, and we're already back to, in fact, our demand is now greater than it was before the COVID crisis began. And we're seeing the same, that was for our wholesale business, and we're seeing the same trends in our retail business. We've just been breaking record after record, our own records, our best November on record, best December on record, best January on record, and so forth. And obviously this is when we all know that with nobody being able to travel, the tourism has, all the money from tourism has then gone into, things like art and jewelry and so forth. And, obviously the luxury industry has really been able to ride that wave, and it's been great. But it's not going to stay. Like, we can't see these sort of increases, these massive sales, the growth continue. It's you can't expect that. But I do actually still see pearls continue to grow in strength. First of all, sustainability obviously is a huge factor that drives luxury sales at the moment. I'm seeing for the first time in a long time big leading luxury jewelry design houses like Dior, for example, taking huge interest in pearls. And sorry?
No, that's good. Carry on. I'm just remarking how nice to hear that is.
Well, that does so many things. First of all, they've got such a big reach. They've got such a big marketing power. So when you have companies like this showcasing pearls, it obviously creates trends, because people are seeing pearls in fresh designs from designers that they trust, that they aspire to own. And I think that these big houses have obviously, it's the sustainable product that is really attracting the use of these pearls. And that's obviously just going to continue to grow, because we are becoming more and more conscious about what we consume and the effects that they have.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I was reading a report from the AGS, American Gem Society Conclave, which is taking place at the moment in Oklahoma. And there was an interesting panel discussion this week about the return of travel and how that is going to affect the jewelry industry. Because of course, many people believe that the jewelry industry has benefited from the lack of travel because they're two discretionary spends that often compete. But the panel in Oklahoma at this conference was generally agreeing that the lack of travel and the shift to jewelry has increased the consumer base for jewelry. So there was a general consensus that people are going to travel and buy jewelry. And of course, that's very favorable for brands like yours that really sell a piece of jewelry from the place where people travel to. Is that something you've started to see, or is it still too early for that tourism to be coming back to Australia?
We haven't seen big growth in our international sales. All the growth has happened from the domestic market, which is really beautiful, that it is the Australians wanting to buy into the Australian product. I feel quite proud about that. But, also, we're about to begin for the first time wholesaling our retail jewelry in the US market fairly soon. And so, like I was saying before about promoting our brand and our pearls, we only do that in the domestic market. But once we do start wholesaling our jewelry, our retail brand in the wholesale market, we're obviously going to support that business with further promotion of Australian South Sea pearls in that market.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's turn to David if we can, because David, you were around when the industry was discussing starting up some sort of collective marketing effort. You participated in the Pearls 1994 conference in Honolulu, and then also the Kobe World Pearl Conference in 1995. Now, those are widely seen to have led to the birth of the South Sea Pearl Consortium. So what was your experience of being part of those events, and what's happened since?
It was quite an amazing opportunity, really, because it was the Department of Home and Land and Fisheries in Hawaii that in 1994, a gentleman called Richard Fassler invited everybody. And I've taken a snapshot of what he said. The goals of the Conference of Pearls 94 are to 1, exchange technical information, 2, promote and market product, 3, monitor the quality of product, and 4, attract investment dollars to the South Pacific and American regions, planning to have a heavy media presence, which should greatly boost the public's awareness of the beauty of South Seas and American pearls. And all the great and the good of the pearl business were there. I was honored to participate with Nicholas Paspaley and George Kalis from the Kalis and Paspaley families of Australia, and Marion's daddy Jacques was there, and Robert Wan from Tahiti, the president of the Cook Islands, opened it. It was an amazing event full of journalists and the major wholesalers from all around the world. And it was the first global conference in a way. And then, not to be outdone, Mr. Tasaki from Japan, who was one of the major leaders in the business, made a conference in Kobe in 1995. And that was a little more organized in a way that we had a panel, and there were 2 people from each country on the panel. And it was really the major people in the industry. And the aim of the conference was to see how to generically market pearls. But what actually happened was it became evident, really, that the pearl business is sort of a business of pearl. Every pearl is unique, and many of the characters in the business are unique. And each, nationality is super proud of their own production. And so this is 28 or 29 years ago, but it did lead to the formation by Nicholas Paspaley of the South Sea Pearl Consortium. And then the Tahitians created or put more money into the Tahitian Promotion Society as a result. And so there were national bodies. The Blanelector family, Marion's family, have done amazing work with the beautiful golden Philippine pearls, and the Paspaley family are extraordinary in what they've done for Australia and Australian pearls, and then you have many people in all the associations now who are all working towards the promotion of pearls. But it was the first time, and now of course we can meet on Zoom. I think if ultimately all the associations can come together in Zoom calls, it should be quite possible to be united, because the thing with branding each company is you've got to say, this is why we're different and this is why we're amazing. But generically, as an industry, it is possible to say we are the people who have dedicated our lives to the production, promotion, the sale, the marketing of pearls, and we love them. And what can we do that unites us? And that is the love of pearls and how to promote that. And of course, you've got all these amazing people now who are, men are wearing pearls all the time. There used to be just the Indian Maharajas, but now Harry Styles, the pop star in England, is wearing them, and all sorts of people. So there's no shortage of people in the world who love pearls. I just think it would be, amazing if what started off 28, 29 years ago leads to, with enthusiasm and energy, leads to a sort of united generic marketing campaign as well. Or not campaign, but a situation where everybody can come together like this.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's great to have that context and to hear your perspective on it. And by the way, our good friend Peggy Gross from ASAL is asking, was Salvador ASAL at that conference?
Yes, he was, and he got so bored of all the speeches by the politicians, he just stood up and said, "I pledge $1 million to the promotion of pearls," and that shut everybody up. And Mr. ASAL was it's no secret, he was Mr. Paspaley's best customer in the United States, and was the supreme marketer in a way, the way Thomas Edison was to light bulbs, and just an amazing energy about Mr. ASAL, and golly gee, he was a character. And there were very sort of big personalities in the business then. There always are, but they were such pioneering people who really, built businesses, massive businesses up almost from scratch. And it's extraordinary what they achieved in a very short space of time. And they were led by their internal love of the pearl, like Leonardo Rosenthal, who wrote the amazing Book of the Pearl in the 1800s. Yeah. Every now and again, there were these generational characters. And I think Mr. ASAL, Mr. Paspaley, Mr. Blanelector, Mr. Wan, to name just a few, were these incredible, pioneers whose legacies live on in their brands and their families. And it's amazing that so many of the families, it's a family business, jewelry, and so many families are intimately involved in so many parts of the business.
Well, let's turn to the next generation of from one of those leading figures in the industry, Marion. From your perspective over there in the Philippines, how much knowledge is there among consumers, global consumers, about Philippine pearls, and especially the majestic golden South Sea pearls that you produce, and what has been done to increase this so that those consumers feel more informed at the retail counter?
So thank you very much for that question, Ed. Maybe just to give a little context for those who are coming in who are being introduced to the golden pearl for the first time. A little bit of history is Jewellery has been around for 42 years now, and the quest for the golden pearl actually started prior to that, when my father, Jack Panelec, previously was one of the pioneers of the black pearl in Tahiti. And after that venture, he met his co-founder in the Philippines, and that's where the quest for the golden pearl began. So initially, in the first 10 years of our company, it took 10 years to master the process of culturing the pearl. And in that process, that's when every so often a golden pearl would come out of the harvest. So initially, Jewellery was not farming golden pearls. And the direction that our founders took was they thought that it was so interesting and this color was so unique that even if the market hadn't seen it, and even when they asked the market said, you know, focus on what's existing. No one's gonna go for gold. They really followed that vision. And I think now when we see golden pearls across the world, it's just a reinforcement that when they followed their instinct, they made the right choice 20 years ago. So having said that, golden pearls have really only been in the market in a commercial marketable quantity for about 20 to 25 years now, meaning while there has been extensive efforts to promote the golden pearl, it's still very young in a sense, and there's still a lot that can be done. And how do we promote it to the consumer? From a retail perspective, the pearl is a gem with such a deep story that it's not something that you leave on the counter and is just going to sell itself. You need people who are really invested and motivated to understand the story of the pearl. So the people in our company, they know everything from the history of the pearl, the different pearl value factors, and the story of the communities and Mother Nature and everything that goes into the pearl. And from a global perspective, we're very lucky to work with valuable partners, such as Sherry, who's on the panel today as well. So we're very selective with the partners we choose because they have to be people that have a certain type of energy and a certain type of heart as well for the product, because it's only through the right people that the story can be properly conveyed.
I like the way you said that. People who have the right heart to convey the message of the pearl. And, you know, in that sense, if I can then turn to Sherry and bring you into the conversation. Sherry, in the US, from where I sit, the Cultured Pearl Association of America and our friend Jennifer Hebner has been very active in promoting cultured pearls. And you also have a very strong website such as pearlguide.com, run by Jeremy Shepard. And these offer advice and support to professionals and also pearl lovers in the US. Now, is this working for you as a retailer? And what else can be done to promote pearls to the US consumer?
Thank you for the question, Ed. I think that the Pearl Association has done a wonderful job. There's also key people that have made it a personal goal to provide the education that's now so readily accessible. So I think, they've made great strides. I know as far as Jennifer personally, everywhere I go and turn, she's there. She's energizing, she's putting story out, she's doing a tremendous job. From a retailer, I feel like I bring a very different perspective to the panel because I do have a brand, but I have retail stores, and that's where I spend the majority of my time is interacting with the consumer. So I relate it like this. If you were to go to church and hear a pastor, and he gave you all types of Bible verses and all types of biblical facts, the thing that we take away is the personal story he gave about his son and a lawnmower. In other words, Jesus taught in parables, and he did that because man remembers story. And so I think it's fantastic that we're getting the information out there because that's a great tool chest. But the key that we need to do as an industry is how do we drive that home in a personal way? How do we get the people that are promoting the pearls in department stores and retail stores and talking about pearls? How do we take the information that we need to have, but how do we make it real so that they're excited to talk about it, right? In other words, if I read a book, I don't share with my best friend the book. I share what the book meant to me personally. How it affects me personally is what motivates me to tell other people about it. I want to share it because it so profoundly changed me. I want other people to have the opportunity. And I personally believe that pearls over any other gem in the world is set up to tell that magnificent story. And I'm so grateful for Marion and the Jewellery family for the opportunity I've had to be really nurtured along by them as a farm family, but also given the opportunity to really care and passionately tell the story. So I think that, you know, in other words, the cumulative effort of what we're talking about is how do we promote pearls? And I think the way we do that is we take the education, but we take it a step further. What does the education mean to me? And when we affect the heart, then we give people a voice, and that's what they want to share.
I mean, I was going to ask you what sort of stories work best to help you set your individual brand apart, but I mean, you know, it seems that you've given me the answer already. It's about speaking with heart and passion about the product.
Well, I think the way that I engage our customers, I have a biblical worldview. So I believe God created the oyster. I believe that he created the oyster to show man what to do with pain. In other words, God created the oyster to be a water filter. In the course of that, an irritant gets in, and that produces a pain, a form of suffering. And yet God created that oyster with the ability to throw nacre and ultimately produce a gem of great price. And so too with humanity. You know, everybody can identify with pain. Everybody goes through life and something happens, or someone betrays them, or their life didn't turn out like what they wanted. And so they have pain. And yet, if we bring that pain to God, he says he will heal it. He'll redeem it. He'll turn it into something good. And I believe that the Bible has set up the pearl, the story of the oyster, as a wonderful parallel to the story of humanity. So if we can capture this incredible pearl, which is the ultimate message of hope, then I think we have a message worth telling as a unified and collective group.
And when we're thinking about a message of hope, if I can turn to sort of a quick discussion here about sustainability and the pearl, do you feel that sustainability can be a redeeming message of hope that the pearl industry can offer, such that no other gem does? I mean, is that something that's going to matter to consumers?
I definitely think it matters. I mean, the environment matters, the sustainability matters, the welfare of the oceans matter. But I think that the story of humanity matters even more so. So if we address the story of humanity, then humanity can address the story of the environment and the sustainability. In other words, we were given this earth to steward, and we were placed in it. And the object is to, you know, live life with kindness and love and hope. And if we do that, then that spreads not only to one another, but it also spreads to our environment. So I think it's a collective message. I think they go hand in hand.
I'm just looking at the chat here, and we're getting a lot of agreement with your message, and you know, especially about the authentic stories that create emotions and feelings within us. David, if I can turn to you though as well, when we're thinking about pearls or cultured pearls specifically, and the main features and the main benefits of them, physically, historically even, and in terms of how they're produced, how do you highlight these elements to promote and to sell them?
I've been in various bits of the market. So I started off in London in my dad's office. He had a pearl farm in Australia, and he was a natural pearl dealer in London. And then I went to Tokyo to learn the business, came to Australia and worked for a wholesaler, then worked 20 years for the Cayless and Pass Bailey farms, and then started my own business again that rekindled it from when I was 21. And now I've turned into being a seller on TV, which happened purely because I met the executive of a TV company on an aeroplane on the way to the Hong Kong show and was invited on.
I'd always wondered why you'd become such a star on TV. It was a chance encounter.
I'm like Forrest Gump. I just show up and these things happen, or Mr. Magoo, the truth is. And, you know, will of God, I'd call that, or the universe. And so it led to this amazing business. I was standing in the queue to go to the men's room in Las Vegas, and there was a guy in front of me, and I looked at his badge and it said CEO Gem Shopping Network. And I said, oh, I'm on TV. And he said, oh, we don't have a pearl person. And I went and auditioned in Atlanta. And next thing, I had a TV show there. So the thing is, though, in TV, everyone's squawking. Like when you go to Marion or Shari or Christine's family businesses, it's romantic and lovely and patient. And it's a very individual, beautiful retail experience. Whereas TV shopping would be just shouting, you got to buy it now, you know, and the hosts are pushing the poor people at home. They do have the right to return, like internet business. But I stress that the most beautiful thing about pearls is their luster and their quality of their skin and the way they make you feel when you wear them. Because my experience is that whenever anyone puts them on, especially I've seen this in TV when their models or the show hosts wear them, everybody, it sparks something inside that brings out grace and dignity and all the qualities that you associate with the great pearl people of all time: Elizabeth Taylor, Coco Chanel, Princess Grace Kelly, Princess Diana, Cleopatra probably, but I never knew her. But over time and through the eons, there's something really divine, like what Shari referred to, about pearls. And they do have, I call them, like, you know how in the Marvel world, you've all got a secret power. Well, the secret power of pearls through their luster, regardless of their color and their origin or anything, but there is something about them that has divine quality. And so the wearer feels better, basically. And perhaps this is why, you know, the likes of Machine Gun Kelly, Harry Styles, Jock Peterson. Jock Peterson's an American man who won the World Series baseball for the Atlanta Braves, and he wore a pearl necklace, and it was like this huge thing, you know, in the worldwide industry. And I'm a massive fan of the American Cultured Pearl Association and all Jennifer's work. You just look at the Instagrams around the world now of all the pearl people, and it's enthusiasm that you need, really, and love for the pearl.
Well, your enthusiasm is shining through. I think we're going to have to make a new Marvel a character and call you Pearl Man. So there we go. Christine, can I bring you back in over there in Sydney? You know, when we talk about sustainability, let's be clear, just about every company nowadays is making some sort of sustainability claim on their product. And it's becoming increasingly difficult for consumers to decipher the authenticity of many of these. So how can we speak about the sustainability of South Sea cultured pearls in an authentic way that truly inspires consumers?
Yeah, you know, it's a funny thing, sustainability and pearls. You know, I know it's a recent trend, but it's always been the case for pearling. You know, it's not something that we suddenly made our business sustainable. In order to grow beautiful pearls, the environment has to be kept in the most pristine possible, pristine condition that you can. And otherwise, you know, beautiful pearls just don't grow in polluted water. And so, you know, it's just sort of always been an underlying message, I think, for us. It's just ingrained in who we are. That, first of all, I think that's where the authenticity comes into it. that you actually have to live and breathe what you're talking about. And the second thing is, people, luxury is no longer just about status or wealth, a statement of those things. It's also about a statement of your values. What you wear is who you are. And so people are looking for luxury products. Of course, that still hold dreams and aspirations, but they're also looking for products and brands that they emotionally connect with. So you have to really drive, like what Shari was talking about, that emotional connection. And it's hard to do with sustainability these days. That is one of those less tangible values that people are looking for. But like you say, we're all hearing it. And so you need to, you can't just say it, you have to actually show it. And it has to be done through storytelling that is engaging, that people are going to feel emotional about. At Paspaley, it's easy for us to do because we're still using pearl divers to go down to the ocean and hand collect the oysters. And, this is something that women and men really love hearing about. They just want to know more about it. And they love wearing a piece of the process, part of the process, the jewelry from it. Our divers, we've created actually a whole collection. It's our latest collection at the moment called JIV, that tells this whole story, centered around, it enables us to be able to talk about the pearling industry, how it is sustainable without actually using the word sustainable. The divers go down and hand collect the shell. And this means that they only take the one type of shell that they're after. They take it without even touching the ocean floor. And what they take is so strictly governed by the Australian Fisheries Department that we can only take a certain quantity that will ensure the long-term health of the Australian pearl beds. And that's why the Australian pearl beds are the last significant source of wild pearl shell. And the way that we tell this story is not just through the inspiration behind our collections. That is a great way to be able to communicate that at store level. Visually through social media, we post a lot of imagery of the location when people are seeing where our pearl farms are, how remote they are, how wild it is, how pristine it is, clean oceans. That automatically conjures these feelings of freedom and escape, and beaches and sand, and it just it takes you away. It makes you feel like you want to go there. It emotionally engages you, and so that's that underlying sustainable message. Because if we were wrecking the environment, it wouldn't look like that, obviously.
Marion, if I can turn to you on this message as well, because of course you've been building a brand now with Jewellery for some time, and the effect that you have on your environment and on your communities is central to your brand identity. And we've seen that so many times in presentations from your brother, from your father, and other members of Jewellery. And it's beautiful to see, especially the effect on the communities in the Philippines, in Palawan, where you farm. But what are the challenges for you in really nurturing sustainability as a brand message, and also dealing with the environment in which you operate?
So let me start first with the challenges of sustainability from an environmental point of view. My father always says that the pearl is the indicator of the health of the environment, meaning if you cannot produce beautiful pearls, or you cannot even produce a single pearl if you don't have a pristine, healthy environment. The oysters and the pearls are so susceptible to every single change, whether it's in water temperature, acidity, food availability, or any sort of pollution. So from an environmental perspective, that's very challenging because that's not something that's in our control. The best that we can do is to conserve and protect the environment. So as pearl producers, our role is really marine protection and creating awareness. And other challenges are typhoons as well. So there's many things that are not in our control, whether you have decades of experience or the most skilled master pearl technicians, we're only 40% of the equation, and Mother Nature is our biggest shareholder. So that's just one of the many challenges. But I would say it's also a very exciting opportunity because it allows us to do something greater than just produce beautiful pieces. There's a lot more meaning and purpose to what we do. So when we are challenged, we do see that greater mission and that greater impact that we can have, not just on the environment, but on the many communities that rely on the environment for their livelihood. And the other thing that is, I guess the other side of it is the fact that it is so challenging allows us to produce a gem that's very unique and very rare. So when people are looking for something, as Christine mentioned, something authentic, something that has a real story, this allows people to find that gem that really has a deeper meaning and is something that can resonate with them at a personal level.
Yeah. And you know, one of the effects of the climate crisis and climate change is the change in weather patterns. And of course, as you've mentioned, you're so directly affected by typhoon season, which is now starting earlier and ending later. How is it so far? You've already had some typhoons this year?
Yes, we did have Typhoon Odette that hit our farms and hit communities around our farms as well. So that's very challenging. So, you know, marketing pearls is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that goes into the operation of pearls. So our team actually is really was on the ground. My brother was personally in Palawan helping to rebuild roads and bring basic essentials to the communities, even outside of our company. So it means that the people we work with, they really have to be dedicated to this gem, and they have to believe in it, because there are many sacrifices that we all collectively have to make, and there are many unknowns, and there's a lot of uncertainty, but somehow we've always been blessed. And with every challenge we've had, whether it's typhoon or the pandemic, where we're forced to close all our stores all over the world, somehow there's some sort of magic around the gem that sustains us until now. Yeah.
Well, we commend you for your work, and we pray for you all to be safe, and everybody who works on pearl farms in remote locations. Let's turn to a discussion about the collective marketing that we talked about at the start. So Shari, as a retailer, is there a need to create a collective message for pearls? You know, I'm thinking especially of the famous slogan, "A diamond is forever." And, you know, who could and should team up to formulate such a collective message most effectively?
I think it's a great question. I think it's a very deep question. You know, there's a saying that says that repetition is the mother of education. So I think a collective message would be fantastic. There's been so many great things said. I'm so glad this is being recorded. I love what Christine said. There was so much value in her comments, and Marion as well. Going back to the environment and sustainability, you know, the pearl industry has the authentic original message. The pearl industry didn't have to become politically correct and try to create some narrative to push their brand. The pearl industry is the real deal. The hearts of the farmers, the owners, the people that work at the farms. I mean, I have personally experienced this, and I've been profoundly personally changed because of their lives and the passion and the dedication and the sacrifice that all of these companies do to bring a pearl to fruition. I mean, it's an incredible gift. And I think when you're able to share that with the consumer, they get it. It's a passionate story. It would be an epic film. It's so worth telling. I also love that Christine brought the word value in, because that's a human touch point, right? In other words, all of us have the need to love and be loved. All of us have the need to be valued. Think about the incredible growth of things like the social media platforms and TikTok and Instagram. That is all people crying out for worth and value and to be seen. And the message of the pearl is the natural original message that God gave, that you are important. There are so many biblical references to pearls, not in just like a small message, but in Matthew, God uses the pearl of great price as an allegory to present his son, Jesus Christ. In Revelation 21:21, God says that the holy city of Jerusalem will have 12 gates. Each of those 12 gates will be a single pearl. And there'll be 12 angels at those gates and the 12 tribes of Israel. So there's something very, very important to God about pearls, and that means it should be important to us. For me, I love that Pearls has given me the incredible blessing of engaging with our clients with the story that you're important, you're valuable, you're unique. There's only one of you, you're precious. And it doesn't have anything to do with money. And that's why I think, Pearl Man brought up all the iconic women that have chosen to be seen in pearls. And we see this since the dawn of time to present day. Why do all women in positions of authority or leadership choose to be visibly represented in pearls? And I think it's because pearls are the most relational gem. You have no monetary assessment to a strand of pearls. People do not know if you're wearing 100,000 or $1, like they don't have a clue. And I love that, because personally, I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to be unique. I'm like everybody coming in. I want to be seen. I want to be unique. I want to be known for me. I don't want to be identified with what I own. For instance, if I carry a certain handbag or wear a certain watch or get out of a certain car, people associate a dollar value with that. Oh, it's a Range Rover, it's 120,000. Oh, they can go, oh, it's a certain handbag, it's 4,000. And so they're not identifying with you. They're identifying with what you own. And I reject that theory. I want to be known for who I am. I do love beautiful things, but that's not who I am. I want to be okay if I have those things or if I don't. And to me, that's what pearls offer. There is no monetary assessment when someone stops me in a grocery store and goes, oh, I love your pearls. Number one, pearls make me approachable. People are not intimidated to come up to me. So I love everything about pearls. And I think that the story is magnificent, and I think it's untold, and I think it's worth telling. And again, if going back to your collective message, yes, if we can as a collective group go, what is the message we want to send? For me, I want to touch people's lives. I love what I do, and I want to sell the most pearls in the world like everybody else. But the reason I want to do that is because of the opportunity I have to allow pearls to change somebody's life, to tell them that you're special, you're wonderful, and give them a tangible expression that every time they wear those pearls, they hear that message. I'm special, I'm important, I'm seen. And we have the unique ability to come up with what is that collective voice that we all agree on. We're all going to express it differently. I'm going to do it very differently than Christine. Christine's going to do it very differently than Marion. Marion's going to do it different than Pearl Man, and all the retail stores are going to do it differently. And that's what makes it so beautiful. We collectively bring the differences on a unified message that in 5, 10, 15 years can be heard because it's collective. There's a saying that says, if one or two of us do it, it's a drop in the ocean. I'm reading it. If all of us do it, it's a tide, and a tide lifts all boats.
Well, we love that message. That's really very important. Tide lifts all message. By the way, there's lots of great suggestions coming in the chat of the Diamond is Forever equivalent. Damien Miles, Damien, I think you're winning so far with Pearls for the Planet, but please pop them all in here if you have any suggestions for these taglines for pearls going forward. But Christine, can I bring you in, and as a company that is synonymous with farming but also wholesaling and retailing, do you think there are differing views on the case for generic pearl promotion within these different divisions or these different sectors of the pearl supply chain?
I think there would be. What my brothers do, for example, wholesaling pearls, heading a wholesale division of the loose pearls, is they're competing against other pearl producers, and so they need to differentiate what makes their pearls different. And so where they struggle with having a generic pearl promotion is trying to be able to get that message across when the majority of pearls don't have those aspects of what is most appealing about our pearls. And so they find that really difficult. On the other hand, so we conducted a huge market research a few years ago, maybe less than 10 years ago. And what we actually learned, and this research went through over New York City, London, Beijing, Sydney, and so forth. It was a global research. And what we learned was that if a woman doesn't like pearls by the age of 30, you will never convert that interest. And so whilst you might not think that those younger girls are that you need to promote to them because they might not be your demographic yet, we actually really need to create that desire for her at a younger age. And, with the diamond industry, when you just said diamonds are forever, that the diamond industry created this, first of all, a reason to buy pearls. Everybody gets engaged at some point in their life. It's just brilliant. They weren't always known as the gem of love. This was a marketing campaign. And, that with diamonds, I think that even the diamonds, yes, a diamond is a diamond, but the varying prices, because of the varying virtues of a diamond, reach such a large demographic that even though the diamond, even though you've got people buying a $5,000 diamond ring is not the same consumer as someone buying a 10-carat flawless D, is it? They're totally different consumers. But at the end of the day, the diamond industry has created desire for that product. And women, girls grow up imagining themselves in diamonds. And that's what we need to do with pearls, I think. And I think that, even I keep seeing treated freshwater pearls in the most amazing jewelry stores, big designers, and they set them with precious gemstones. And I just find that so strange. And the only thing that I can the only reason that I can put to that is a lack of education. Yeah. Because otherwise I really just can't understand it. And so there are a number of factors that South Sea pearls have that is unified, that is beautiful, beyond the sustainability, but there is a sustainability. There's the fact that they come from the ocean. For me, it automatically sets them apart from freshwater. But who doesn't love the ocean? Who can't relate to the ocean? Everybody, if you can try to center pearls, I think, around that message, I think that it would be really appealing to people. That what you want to do is try to associate pearls with that feeling of coming out of the ocean. That feeling that we all get, that when your skin is just salty and you feel like you're on a holiday. The word South Sea is so beautiful as well. And I think that even the word sustainable is a little bit complex, because what you're meaning there with pearls, because it's you've got to kind of balance that act, because a lot of people think that the reason why they're sustainable is because they're cultured. it's because we're helping to create them. We have an annual harvest. And so there's this idea that maybe they're not rare. And so you need to focus on the fact that the shell is so rare, the fact that it's a solitary creature that doesn't like living in big numbers. They don't grow in abundance. How hard it is, how long the pearl takes to grow, all of these things that will always make South Sea pearls one of the rarest gems on the planet, despite being cultured.
Yeah, you know, listen, the whole topic around the word that's used is another webinar in itself, because words do matter. But, you know, thank you so much for bringing that up, and also for highlighting the difference that not all pearls are born equal. You know, there are some pearl farms and farmers can claim to be sustainable, and other types of pearls, freshwater were mentioned, have perhaps less of a claim, shall we say. So thank you for highlighting that. And it's important for people all along the supply chain to be really asking questions of their suppliers about the actual actions behind their words, if they're using the term sustainable. We're busting through the 1 hour mark, as we always do, but I'm finding the conversation stimulating. So if there's anybody who's listening who needs to leave, please. We usually do go a little bit over, but we're still thick in the conversation here. Marion, I did want to bring in this question of the generic marketing from your perspective at Jewellery, in that, you know, when you're promoting your product, is it going to be best, do you think, to work together collectively, or can you best speak your own voice yourselves as Jewellery?
I think definitely our brand, our founders, as David mentioned, have always pushed for a generic promotion that can support the whole industry, because, you know, there's a different beauty to the Australian South Sea pearl, the golden South Sea pearl. Pearls are all unique, so there's a pearl for everyone, male and female. And definitely individually, there's so much we can do to promote the Philippine pearl. I won't go into that, or this might take another hour. But collectively, I think the challenges there have been perhaps how fragmented the industry is, in terms of maybe different objectives of different types of pearls. And the other challenge is that to come up with one line that every pearl brand would agree with, when the pearl has so much narrative and so many different angles, that would be challenging for everyone to say, okay, this is the perfect line that represents all of us. But I do think it could be a very exciting opportunity. And I think even what...
Oh, I think we just suddenly lost Marion in the middle of conversation. Yep, I think we did. Well, I'm so sorry. I'm sure she'll join back with us in a minute. This is what happens in the real world of internet connections. David, maybe I can turn to you just to round off this conversation. You know, we've talked already about how active you are on TV with your passion and your energy for selling pearls and pearl jewelry. What system do you think, what system of marketing, when we're talking about this collective versus individual effort to promote, what's going to work best to promote pearls today, given that the consumer and the consumer appetite for marketing is changing all the time?
I would see a sort of worldwide version of everything Jennifer and the CPAA does. If each country had the pearl enthusiasts, wholesalers, retailers, farmers got together and wanted to make some generic marketing, it could be done relatively easily through an association and some budget and some Instagramming. And nowadays, of course, there are so many influencers. Like I don't know how many people look at Harry Styles, for example, the guy who is the lead singer of One Direction, or one of the singers, but it must be in the millions. And I Googled him before we started, and there's here, where's my photo of Harry? There's him. He's like he's happily wearing his necklace.
Yeah,
and then
nice.
Then this guy, Jock Peterson, was the guy from the Atlanta Braves who won the World Series wearing that. And then I was in this place called Byron Bay last week, which is a nice part of Sydney, and I met this young man in a cafe. He's wearing pearls. And so
nice one.
Personally, I think pearls represent beauty, spirituality, energy, and everything in life is energy, essentially. We're all communicating energy, and pearls are giving out a sort of energy and hold a field of energy. And as long as there's energy and enthusiasm and a form of unity, I personally don't care where pearls are from or what they are, as long as they're nice, let's say, for want of a better word. China is the biggest market at the moment that's driving the prices, and they are consuming everything in sight. And the Japan market, where traditionally all the major Japanese controlled 65% of all pearl business worldwide, it would come through Japan. And because a lot of the Japanese wholesalers are surviving by supplying mainland China, they're driving the prices up so that they'll have something to sell back to China. So it's China and America and Japan are very, very important places in the world pearl story. And China, of course, does produce the freshwater pearls. And I know many people who love Edison freshwater pearls, for example. But this is a global business now, and I'm all for whatever would work that we could all put energy and enthusiasm into. But individually, really, I see on Instagram, everybody is doing an amazing job, actually. And so many people have access to we're a much more, the whole society has got an attention span of 5 to 20 seconds these days. And so flashing up all these Instagram pictures of whether it's celebrities or whether it's the ancient Romans or whether it's whoever it is and whatever it is, the beautiful jewelry that's being created out of pearls and being shown everywhere, it does mean that there's I don't know what I'm trying to say here, other than it can't be that difficult to make a generic Instagram if we want to, but companies still can have all their individual goals and aspirations and marketing plans. And as I said at the beginning, the point of branding is to show what's different and special about you, but what's important about generic marketing is what unifies us. And there's nobody on this call in the pearl business who doesn't just adore pearls. There's no question of that. So it's just a matter of putting the energy into something.
Well, thank you for framing it. I mean, I think we've all agreed that there's a need for collective marketing. I'd like to ask you all in turn basically the same question. We've kind of agreed that it would benefit the industry all along the supply chain for all the different producers. But I'd like to ask you, and it's not I'm not going to hold you to this, I promise. And all the people listening are not going to hold you to. But in an ideal world, and I think that many of us have set out some great ideals, but in an ideal world, how would we collectively as an industry come together to achieve this? I'm not going to hold you to it, but let's see what would be some brief thoughts about how it could be done. Perhaps I'll start with Shari.
It's a great question, and I think that it has to be answered well, because another great saying is, you do what you believe, everything else is just conversation. So it would have to be something that the farms can believe in. I think it's if you come up with a message that is relevant to the generation that we need to affect, which is a much younger generation, if you can come up with a message for them that is universal to do with pearls, then that doesn't really affect the farms, and the retailers can do that in an individual way. I agree with Christine, and I'm sure everybody on the panel, that we need to educate a very young generation. We need to give them a reason why they should wear pearls, value pearls, and want pearls. The people most of us are selling to now in the high end are over 50 years old. Sure. And my children don't, I mean, apart from me, that age group, don't have a personal connection to pearls. Yeah. So we do need to come up with something like the diamond industry, or like Dior or Louis Vuitton, that have maintained relevancy and demand. We need to start that now, or there will be a big gap in years to come. We're still riding on people that have a connection to pearls, but the generations coming up, they do not. And we see that. If they have money, they'd rather go buy a handbag, a certain pair of shoes. Yeah. So Sherry, I agree with you entirely. Sorry to interrupt. I do want to get individually to each person, and thank you for that perspective. Can I ask the same question to David? And can I ask you to focus on how we achieve it? We've assessed that we need to. How do we do it?
In a nutshell, we sort of reproduce what the Cultured Pearl Association of America does around the world, and have an umbrella organization, maybe under CIBJO, that meets on Zoom and discusses it. And we agree to promote all the things we can agree on, which won't affect our brands individually at all, and perhaps use influencers, etc., etc. Fashion. Can I possibly be totally unpolitical then and say, let's make Jennifer global, Jennifer and her team? I'd vote for that in a heartbeat. Well, we need Salvador Asael in the room and put $1 million behind it, and then maybe it'll happen. But Marion, can I hope you're still with us, Marion. I can see, I hope you are.
Yes, I'm so sorry for that disconnection.
No problem, it's great to have you back with us. So just turning to you quickly and briefly, if we can, as a farmer. So you're going to have a bit more of a skin in the game on this one. How are we going to achieve this collectively?
I think the goal would really have to be pushing more towards the end consumer. I think the industry, the jewelry industry, is very invested and passionate, and it's how to portray this to those who are not even in the jewelry world, because I believe that the story of pearls is something that can resonate with everyone. So if we do create that demand to the consumer, then it's all going to come upstream.
Thank you. Christine, we promise we're not going to hold you to anything you say now. But as the largest player in the room on the farming side, how are we going to achieve this?
Look, I think that it sounds like everybody kind of feels like that we can create a unified message in a macro sense, and then so you create desire first of all through that message, and then the individual companies go and promote all the unique aspects that make their product different, and you can further engage your clients, and attack generate your demographic that way. I think that sustainability is just a no-brainer for me. Yeah. And like I said before, the South Seas, I really believe that, David's pearls come from Tahiti, and, they're from the Philippines and from Australia. These are exquisite places that really take people away emotionally. And I think that has never been really capitalized. And it is really creates a very easy to talk about, and visually you can understand the difference between pearls not grown, well, freshwater pearls and saltwater pearls. Now, I think that there is enough messages that are inspiring that all of the South Sea pearls have together.
Great. Thank you very much. Listen, thank you to all of you. Thank you for all the comments in the chat as well. There's loads. And it looks like Jennifer is up for going global. Gaetano, we do have some time for questions, and I do want to have some closing remarks from Gaetano, but let me just see if I can find a couple of questions here. There's a lovely one here from our good friend Vivian, who's identifying herself as Vivian Glass. Okay, Vivian. Vivian asks, and perhaps I can put this one to you, Christine. It's great to hear about MSC involvement. Is there an opportunity to collaborate with some of the marine association or marine or ocean conservation NGOs for some form of generic promotion? I'm particularly excited about how to help promote the sustainability aspect. Christine, do you have any thoughts on that question?
Sorry, I missed to ask. I'm getting sound over. I actually can't hear you properly.
It's a good friend of us called Vivian
Sure.
Glass in London, in UK, I should say.
And she's a retailer. What? Sorry, I'm trying to ask.
Well,
you ask
Vivian
sorry.
is a retailer
Okay.
of beautiful jewelry, but nowadays she's more a sustainability consultant for the jewelry industry. So
Okay.
she's asking about MSC involvement. Is there any chance of a promotion to collaborate with marine conservation and ocean conservation NGOs, non-governmental organizations?
For us to collaborate?
Generally for the industry, I think is what she's thinking about.
Well, certainly they could with us.
Okay, have you had any discussions with any forms of conservation NGOs about working around the story that the pearl brings to the oceans from Pasquale's perspective?
Look, I don't believe that we have from our wholesale side. We certainly haven't from our retail side. And like I say, that we do tell that story quite a lot within our retail business. It's a really strong part of our messaging. And I think most Australians would know about the sustainable practices that we operate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. There's a really intriguing question here from Damien Miles, and I'd like to ask it to any of you. Damien asks, are pearl producers worried about the growing trend of veganism and how this conveys to public opinion of pearl culturing? For example, public opinion of pearls being produced from an oyster's suffering. Do any of you have any opinions, or have you heard of anything around that?
I'll answer some of it. I think that something that I'm really proud about our shell is that, first of all, one shell produces up to 3 pearls, and so you're really talking years. It's in our care for years and years before we do open that shell to remove the pearl. And so it's not something like we're just shucking these oysters one by one. It's not like that. You're talking one oyster every 6-8 years, and that's after it's already 3 years old. And so first of all, there's that it's a very slow process. There's not many of them. And the other thing is every part of the animal gets used. It's not even like an animal that we kill and then you throw away the bits and pieces. We use the shell, we sell the shell. That's used for sustainable jewelry all around the world. We use the pearl that it grows, and we sell the meat that it grows. I think that's beautiful, that there is no waste, that it is all an inclusive piece of product.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm personally proud of.
Thanks, Christine. David, you had something to add?
I have a dear friend who's a vegan, and he's got a job in a meat company that makes fake meat all out of plants. And I think vegans, if they love jewelry, they can wear fake pearls. It's been a business for so long. It doesn't matter. And people who want real pearls do love real pearls. They often find out how the pearls are made and still buy them. And I kind of think there is a massive market in fakes and alternatives for people who have deep held beliefs on where everything comes from. But there are enough things out there to satisfy everybody.
Okay. Listen, we've really busted through our time allotted today, this morning, this evening, this afternoon, or for some of us quite late at night. So I'm going to ask if I can turn to Gaetano down there in Rome to take us to the end, if that's okay. Gaetano, are you all right with your connection?
Yes, I'm okay. I'm sorry that I am speaking here in a group of friends and people.
Okay.
But I'm sorry. But I want to say that the pearl industry is precious by nature. And all of you represent this beauty, which is part of the jewelry industry, and I think is one of the most important area in our industry in every single term: sustainability, CSR, for what I saw myself, both in Australia and in the Philippines, or in Japan, or in Tahiti, or in other areas of the world. So let me express my deep appreciation to all of you for what you're doing. I want to, again, thank you very much indeed for sharing with us all these thoughts, which are very instructive and inspiring. And again, thank to our sponsors, and thank to our friends in the audience that are with us. Thank you very much.
Grazie mille, Gaetano. Thank you to you and Subjo and to Steve Benson for all the work you do, but also all the work in delivering these webinars. It's much appreciated by me and the panelists and all of the audience as well. Thank you to all of the audience today. We had a nice, strong audience, but most importantly for me, we had such an active chat box today. I haven't had time to read through it all, but there's been a lot of communication going on in there. So thank you to all of you for that participation. I'm so grateful to the four panelists for being with us here today. Christine, you can finally go to bed now. Thank you so much for staying up late, and our best wishes to all of your family down there in Australia. And we look forward to seeing you when we're all allowed to travel and maybe come to Hong Kong and see you in places around. All the very best to you. Thank you.
You should come to Australia. You should come to our pearl farm, not just see us in Hong Kong.
We would love to. And as travel's opening up, we're looking forward to being able to do that. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. It was a great topic.
You're welcome. Marion, the same to you. All the very best. Best to your family as well. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you soon as well.
Thank you very much, Ed. I had a wonderful time.
And Shari, please have a great rest of your day. Hopefully it started nicely for you, and enjoy the beauty of the location you live there.
Will do. Thanks so much. It was a great discussion, and I look forward to more of it. And have a great night or rest of your day, everyone.
And David, I'm leaving you again to the last. Pearl Man, the new Marvel comic hero. That's what we're going to call you from now on. Thanks so much to you for joining.
Thank you, Ed. Love the title. And thank you, Steve, for everything, and Gaetano, and all our fellow panelists and everyone who took part. Thank you so much.
So listen, we're going to be back next month on Thursday, May 26th. We're going to be talking about the metaverse and NFTs, non-fungible tokens. We have an excellent panel lined up, so please look out for announcements soon. Now, having researched this fascinating topic, I can honestly say it is so complicated and fast-moving that I guarantee we're going to raise more questions than we have answers when we talk about this topic. But that's exactly why we're going to be exploring it. So the industry and people who join us can start to consider the future opportunities that are present for gems and jewelry in the metaverse. So before then, I'm off to buy a pair of virtual Bulgari earrings for my avatar, just in time for the webinar next month. I look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you, everybody. I'll leave the chat box open for a little bit for you if you wish to read through it. I wish you a very good rest of your day or a pleasant evening wherever you are. All the best. Stay safe, stay connected, and please keep in touch with Subjo through our social media. All the very best. Good night.